My name is Imran Jan and you are watching my YouTube channel. President Biden has come out of his corona and has claimed to have killed the leader of Al Qaeda, one Dr. Ayman Al Zawahiri. Several times in the past there had been reports of his death. Numerous rumors were always there, and then later on it would be proved that it was not true. However, this time we will just take it at its face value and just treat the news as authentic. Dr. Ayman Al Zawahiri was an Egyptian doctor, and one of his very initial claims to fame was when he once slapped an Egyptian police. This was from the days of Egypt when the police of Egypt was notoriously brutal and corrupt. Back in the days, several Islamists in Egypt were put in jail by the Egyptian government at the time, and one of those famous speeches that he gave from the jail cell while standing among many other fellow Egyptians became one of his reasons behind his fame and quick rise in the jihadist world. Anyway, Zawahiri's history is long and not very interesting. He was never a charismatic leader. He was never the kind of charismatic leader that Osama bin Laden was. And this is something that one of his very close friends, Zawahiri's close friends, told him long time ago in Egypt. The exact words I may not remember correctly, but he said something along the lines of this. He basically told Zawahiri that whichever organization you work in, you can never be the leader of that organization. Someone had figured it out early on that Ayman Al Zawahiri did not have the charisma and the leadership skills that are needed to head a group, any kind of group. CIA unleashed a Hellfire missile from its drone and killed Ayman Al Zawahiri in Afghanistan. When I first saw the news, the first thing that came to my mind was the US and Taliban peace deal, which basically one of the basic tenets and one of the basic principles of that deal was that the US will leave Afghanistan, they will withdraw from that country, in return for Taliban never to allow any terrorist group to operate on its soil and plan and execute attacks against the United States. So the fact that Zawahiri was there is the very first proof that the Taliban perhaps did not take care of their end of the bargain, which was not to allow any terrorist group to use Afghan soil. And that is exactly what everyone is talking about. The mainstream Western media is talking about exactly that, while of course they are celebrating the death of the Al Qaeda leader. But what is not mentioned, a question I always like to ask, what is it that they're not saying? What is not mentioned is that while the Taliban broke the agreement, the United States also broke the international law. By making an armed attack another sovereign state is a violation of international law, and nobody is talking about that. Maybe Zawahiri wasn't there, maybe he was there. Maybe the Taliban gave him shelter, or maybe the Taliban gave him shelter because he renounced violence. Maybe none of that is true. Maybe the Taliban did not know of his presence in their country, because remember, it's a porous border between Pakistan, Afghanistan, and many other countries. And the Taliban does not have such a sophisticated infrastructure where they can keep an eye on every person going in and out of that country. The United States cannot keep an eye on everyone going in and out of their country from the southern border. Let's not expect that from the Taliban. Secondly, if we stick to, let's say, that claim, if we just say, okay, the Taliban did not know that Ayman Al Zawahiri was in Afghanistan, it may sound like a lie. But remember, every time a US contractor, a CIA contractor, is captured or arrested in a foreign land, in a distant land, while they are doing something against that host country, the CIA always disowns them. They claim what's called plausible deniability. Can the Taliban now claim plausible deniability? And the Taliban's claim of plausible deniability would be a much stronger claim, because they do not have such a strong infrastructure, like I said, to keep an eye on everything and everyone in their country. And I also want to mention that President Biden and everybody in Washington, D.C., almost everybody in Washington, D.C. right now is claiming that America is safer now and America killed its its enemy, and they have decimated and weakened a terrorist organization called Al Qaeda. I want to mention this. I want to remind them that it is exactly these sort of actions that always prove to be counterproductive. The face of the US and Taliban deal from the United States side was always Zalmay Khalilzad. Even though there was a change in the administration in the United States, Zalmay Khalilzad was the man who actually carried this on. Now, Zalmay Khalilzad is really arguing in favor of this killing, and is saying that this is further proof that the United States did not need to be present in Afghanistan to kill its enemies. And Zalmay Khalilzad is not alone. Lots of other people agree with him, and they're all, cheering over this idea that they killed their enemy while not being in Afghanistan. I want to warn them that while it may look really attractive on the surface, on the face, but such a US strike on the soil of Afghanistan while the Taliban are in charge also means that now Taliban will see this as a complete end of the peace deal with the United States. This is it for them, as far as I understand. They will see that not only as a violation of that deal, they will see this not only as a violation of the international law, but more importantly, they will see this as a breach of the agreement made. And now the gloves are off. Now they will see this, that there is no more deal. They will allow all kinds of terrorist organizations to come to Afghanistan, do whatever they like, exactly the kind of stuff that the United States wanted in return. It also is important to mention here that President Obama, President Biden's boss, back in 2011, had killed Osama bin Laden pretty much about the same time in his presidency as what we are seeing with Biden right now. He also needed to prove his foreign policy credentials, his credentials generally also, so that he can be re-elected. Election in the United States, general presidential election in the United States, is happening in 2024, less than 2 years from now. It's about the same time. President Biden also had to do something like that. I understand the need. This is an election. It's all about votes. And but I also want to say that it is exactly these activities, these actions, because the Americans had forgotten about Afghanistan. Everybody had almost moved on. Now, this will help Al Qaeda and lots of other terrorist organizations in their recruitment drives. You watch, that's what's going to happen.